The only poll that counts is the poll on election day. That's one of like the most grim-faced cliches in all of politics, right? But every election cycle, you can set your watch on it.
I'll tell you what I think. The only polls that count are the polls the American people go to on November 2nd.
In any event, the bottom line is this. The only poll that counts is going to be in November.
The only poll that counts is the one they're going to take on Tuesday when they count the votes that these people are going to cast, and we're going to win in Florida.
No, you're not going to win in Florida, Senator. You are not. But that cliche, the only poll that counts is the one in, that is most useful in politics as a signpost to tell you who is losing in the polls at that moment. That's who always says that cliche about the only poll that matters is the poll on election day. You know, but there is some truth to it. I mean, polls in advance of an election only get you so far in terms of telling you what exactly is going on in the country and what's going to happen next in politics. And however you feel about the results of any particular election, one thing I think is always a little bit of a relief about watching the news after an election is that at least, finally, there's no more polling. That's been nice, right? There's more polling. And this will not tell you about who is going to win any next thing. But honestly, this new polling, this turns out to be fascinating. And I think it may actually end up being really useful information in terms of understanding what is about to happen next in our country. And we have got this exclusively tonight. You are not going to get this anywhere else. But going through this new poll tonight from PPP, honestly, I feel like it kind of knocked a few years off my life expectancy. This will curl your eyelashes a little bit. But look at it. This is a national poll done by PPP. And for me, this is kind of an aha moment. I think this makes some previously sort of inexplicable stuff make sense. OK, here it is. Put up that thing that says we've got this thing exclusively that nobody else has. We've got this thing. Nobody else has this. Put up that thing. Thank you. All right. This is exclusive. You can't get this anywhere else. And they start with some basic questions. So they ask the country, do you like Donald Trump? And the country's answer is no. No, 51% of the country views Donald Trump unfavorably. 51% unfavorable to 43% favorable. That's if you ask the whole country, do you like Trump? But if you ask Donald Trump voters, yeah, Donald Trump voters love Donald Trump, obviously. 87% favorable. They love him. But now look at this. Again, ask the whole country. Do you like Barack Obama? The country's answer to that is yes, we do like Barack Obama. 50% favorable rating overall for Barack Obama, 45% unfavorable. That's for the whole country. But if you just ask Trump voters, do you like Barack Obama? The answer is capital N, capital O with a swear word before and after it. Look at that. Among Trump voters, Barack Obama has a 5% approval rating. And you know, Republicans have always hated President Obama, but the hatred for President Obama among Trump voters is even stronger than it is among Republicans more broadly. You ask Republican voters that same question, they give President Obama a 9% approval rating. And that's still low, but that's almost double the proportion of Trump voters who like him. So yeah, we do have a partisan split in this country, and Democrats and Republicans see things differently, blah, blah, blah. But there's something a little bit special going on with Trump voters. And I think this is where it starts to get really hairy. Because, all right, look at this. This is a snapshot of real life. See that blue line there? It's faint, but you see that blue line there? That's real life. That is the performance of the stock market under Barack Obama as president. This is the Dow Jones Industrial Average. When he took office, the Dow was at just under 8,000 points. Today, it closed at 19,615 points. So the stock market, since Barack Obama has been president, has risen by almost 12,000 points. It is considerably more than doubled since he's been president. But if you ask Donald Trump voters about this, 39% of Donald Trump voters say that the stock market has dropped since Barack Obama has been in office, which is crazy. It's way more than doubled. You guys think it's dropped, the stock market? Here's another one that's even more astonishing. This is, again, this will start with the snapshot of real life. This is the unemployment rate over the time that Barack Obama has been in office as president. And unemployment, you know, it always flops around a little bit. It always has little seasonal zigzags. But this is a very clear picture. There's only one way to describe what has happened overall to unemployment in America since Barack Obama has been president. And if you ask America about that, America knows this is what has happened to unemployment under Barack Obama. If you, in this new national poll, if you ask Hillary Clinton voters, they understand this. Unemployment rates under President Obama have dropped. You ask Gary Johnson voters, they understand this. Unemployment rates under Barack Obama have dropped. You ask Jill Stein voters, they get it. You ask people who voted for someone other than Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, Jill Stein, or Gary Johnson, so like people who voted for Vermin Supreme. You ask people who voted for other, even they freaking know this. Everybody knows that unemployment has dropped under Barack Obama, but not Donald Trump voters. And not by a mile. Look at that, by a 47-point margin. Donald Trump voters look at that graph on the right and say, yes, unemployment has gone up under President Obama. By a 47-point margin. The whole rest of the country gets it, but look at that among Trump voters. That's insane. That is plainly wrong. And this is not even one of those things that is widely misunderstood among the American people, and Trump voters just happen to be a little more confused about it than other people. No, everybody gets this. But Trump voters don't, by a huge margin. They're in a fantasy world about this. They do not know what is true when you ask them about this issue, even though the rest of the country does know what's true. And that's what I think is actually really important and really interesting about this poll. And I know it's a poll after an election, but I feel like this is an important bit of data. It's not predicting any election result here, right? There's no reason to go to the bank on this in terms of who's going to win something of any kind. But just take a peek into the mind of Trump voters nationwide. From this new data that we've got exclusively tonight, 40% of Trump voters believe that Donald Trump won the popular vote. Donald Trump did not win the popular vote. Donald Trump voters, by a huge margin, 60% of them, believe that millions of people voted illegally for Hillary Clinton in the presidential election. Millions of people did not vote illegally for Hillary Clinton in the presidential election. Donald Trump voters, by a huge margin, 73-6. Donald Trump voters believe that George Soros is paying people to protest against Donald Trump. George Soros is not paying people to protest against Donald Trump. But 73% of Trump voters believe that he is, and only 6% say that is not true. And again, let me reiterate, that is not true. He is not paying people to protest against Trump. But among Trump supporters, it is an absolute article of faith. Here's a weird one. Nearly a third of Donald Trump voters, 29% of Donald Trump voters, say they do not think that votes from the state of California should be included in the national popular vote. What's that about? I mean, the logical follow-up to that is asking Trump voters whether or not they think California should be forced out of the country, right? I mean, or are they saying that California should stay in the country? It should still be seen as part of the United States of America, but maybe California still just shouldn't have its votes counted. I mean, honestly, you shouldn't count California's votes as part of the national vote total? I don't know. Maybe that is what they want. This is strange stuff. But again, this is exclusive to us. PPP is going to release this national poll tomorrow. We got this exclusive first look at it tonight. And I think it shows that even after the election, what Trump voters believe about the world is distinctively different from what the rest of the country believes and from what is true. And this alternate reality that they're in, it is weird enough and specific enough that you can't say it just springs from broader misunderstandings or from, a broader ignorance on the issues that afflicts the country. I mean, this is a specific alternate reality that was created by the Trump movement for a political purpose. And it worked for that political purpose. And so now, as the Trump administration takes shape, they have to know that they're in power thanks to their voter base that has these false beliefs about the country. False beliefs about the country and false beliefs about the economy and false beliefs about the outgoing president and false beliefs about what California is. So, in terms of what happens next in our country, it seems important to know that the incoming president basically created this fantasy life for his supporters. And as he sets about figuring out how he's going to govern as president, he's got to know that this mindset among his supporters is what he has to work with. And in terms of what that will mean for how he will govern and how he will behave as president, there's one last finding from this poll tonight that we've got exclusively. And I want to show you this tonight, one last thing. And I think this might give us an important preview, an important reality check, as it were, of what to expect from the new president. And it's this question from the poll. It's question number 10. Quote, do you think Donald Trump should release his tax returns or not? Now, when you ask the country that question, the country responds, yes, yes, we do. Donald Trump should release his tax returns. By a 30-point margin, when you ask the country that, 59 to 29, the country says Donald Trump should release his tax returns. But look at how that breaks down. Hillary Clinton voters very clearly want him to release his tax returns. Gary Johnson voters want him to release his tax returns. Jill Stein voters want him to release his tax returns. People who voted for none of these, people who voted for, Vermin Supreme or Your Mama or D's Nuts or whatever, those people all want Donald Trump to release his tax returns. But if you ask Donald Trump supporters, the answer is no, he should not release his tax returns. By a 36-point margin, Trump voters say no way should President-elect Trump release his tax returns. And that's important, right? That's kind of an aha moment. Because I think the Beltway common wisdom on this issue, the Beltway common wisdom is sort of looking at the country as a whole and thinking, oh yeah, people want him to release his tax returns. The Beltway common wisdom about the corruption issue with this incoming president, about corruption worries, about the incoming administration and the incoming president in particular. The Beltway common wisdom about this unprecedented thing where we do not know what his financial holdings are. We do not know if his proposed tax policies are designed to benefit his family business and himself. We don't know. We don't know what his ongoing business relationships and his pending deals are. So we don't know if he's taking official actions in the name of the United States of America that are actually motivated by a desire to get a financial benefit for his family or himself. The Beltway common wisdom about these snowballing concerns over his ongoing business deals and what appears in several instances to be him already trying to personally profit off the presidency. The Beltway's take on all of that is that, that's going to create a political problem for him. That's a really embarrassing thing to be caught doing. There will be so much political pressure on him to not do those unseemly things. Eventually, he'll have to stop those things. That's the common wisdom. But look at those numbers. Those are the people that put him in the White House. His supporters, by a very large margin, don't even want to know what his financial ties are, which is the only way to know if he's taking actions as president that are designed to line his own pockets. They don't want to know. And he knows that. That 36-point margin among his own supporters, that's his cushion. That's what he can throw up at the Beltway common wisdom and say, oh yeah, you think I'm feeling pressure? When he looks at that number, do you think he feels any pressure whatsoever to dial it back a little bit? On continuing to make money off his name and his position and his celebrity now that he's in the White House? You think he looks at that number? You think he looks at what his voters believe and thinks, I'm going to face a lot of pressure on this. Better do the right thing. Come on.